Who are neoconservatives or neocons? How do they shape the world today? Are they really that powerful and influence the world we live in, the peace and prosperity which every sane individual wants for their families, and the war where hundreds of thousands and millions burn? The answer is yes. Most clear connection and arguable the peak of their influence on US and global affairs falls on George W. Bush era and the start of the War on Terror, global effort by the United States and its allies to combat and eliminate terrorism through military, diplomatic, and intelligence means. Ignem in pugna. Fight fire with fire. The neocons of today largely consist of the same individuals who initiated this calamity. While it is essential to acknowledge that they were not the sole contributors, it is crucial to shed light on their identities and their role in shaping the world we live in. The term neoconservatives refers to a specific group of political thinkers and policymakers who emerged in the United States in the late 20th century. While the term is often used broadly, there is no single list of individuals who can be definitively classified as the chief neocons. However, there are several prominent figures who are often associated with neoconservatism due to their influential roles and advocacy for certain policies. These individuals have had varying degrees of influence on US foreign policy and have been associated with promoting an assertive, interventionist approach. Some of the well-known figures associated with neoconservatism include Irving Kristol. Often considered the godfather of neoconservatism, Irving Kristol was a prominent intellectual and writer who played a significant role in shaping the movement's ideology. He advocated for a strong US military, market-oriented domestic policies, and a robust role for America in the world. Paul Wolfowitz, a former US Deputy Secretary of Defense and President of the World Bank. Paul Wolfowitz was a key figure in the George W. Bush administration. He played a central role in the US invasion of Iraq in 2003 and was associated with the promotion of democracy and US military intervention abroad. Richard Perle. Richard Perle, known as the Prince of Darkness, was an influential figure in neoconservative circles. He served as an advisor to several US administrations, including as Assistant Secretary of Defense under President Ronald Reagan. Perle was a strong proponent of military intervention and advocated for the removal of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Robert Kagan. Robert Kagan is a prominent neoconservative writer and foreign policy analyst. He co-founded the Project for the New American Century NAC, a neoconservative think tank, and has been vocal in his support for American military power and interventionism. Kagan is a current husband of Victoria Nuland. William Kristol. Son of Irving Kristol, William Kristol is a political commentator and founder of the Weekly Standard. He has been a leading voice within neoconservative circles, advocating for an assertive US foreign policy and a strong defense. Neoconservatism is a complex and multifaceted ideology, and its goals can vary among individuals and over time. However, here is a list of 10 commonly mentioned goals associated with neoconservatives. 1. Promoting American exceptionalism. Neoconservatives often emphasize the unique role of the United States as a force for good in the world and advocate for the spread of American values and ideals globally. Remarks. Terminology such as force for good, spread of American values and ideas globally seems like it came from Hollywood movie about superheroes, where it is supposed to be clear that there is overarching good or evil, and there is a clear line. Well, there is not. Hollywood is one of the greatest weapons that is available to the collective West. Hollywood functions as a propaganda machine, shaping public opinion and promoting certain ideologies through its influential platform. Simply put, good and evil exist on a spectrum, and actions may possess elements of both. 2. Advancing democracy. Neoconservatives generally support the promotion of democracy and human rights, believing that democratic governance contributes to stability and security. Remarks: the spread of democracy can have devastating effects on countries, particularly when it is imposed hastily or without considering the unique circumstances and complexities of the nation in question. While democracy is often championed as a system that promotes freedom, equality, and human rights, its implementation can destabilize fragile societies and exacerbate existing divisions. In some cases, the sudden introduction of democratic processes can lead to power struggles, social unrest, and even violent conflicts as different factions vie for control and influence. Additionally, the prioritization of Western ideals and institutions in the democratization process can overshadow or undermine local traditions, values, and governance systems, resulting in a loss of cultural identity and a sense of alienation among the population. Thus, while democracy has the potential to be a positive force, its imposition, without careful consideration, can have severe consequences for the countries involved. 3. Assertive U.S. foreign policy. Neoconservatives advocate for a robust and proactive foreign policy, including a strong military presence, interventionism when necessary, and a willingness to use force to protect American interests. Remarks on this goal: what are American interests, let's say, in Ukraine? Putting it mildly, the American interest in Ukraine lies in promoting stability, democracy, and countering Russian influence in the region. Given that term democracy and promotion of these costs hundreds of thousands if not millions of lives, and lacks producing a successful example of such promotion so far, Afghanistan or Iraq is at the helm of democracy promotion currently. Stability is also a very questionable concept, because every time there is stability argument used to support some kind of regime support effort or simply military support. Only thing that is stable in this region from that point on is a stable state of chaos and war. When it comes to countering Russian influence, is likely the only somewhat genuine goal. 4. Challenging authoritarian regimes. Neoconservatives prioritize confronting and opposing authoritarian regimes that pose threats to American interests or regional stability. Remarks: Western political systems are intended to have checks and balances with elections and term limits, and the election institutes designed to capture the will of the citizens. This is a noble and fair system. On paper, politicians and other officials are holding offices and forge connections and within the system for decades for the extent of their entire careers, which directly contradicts the designed purpose of the system and brings in all kind of conflicts of interests. Of course, there is a big business influence and lobby, which is an 800-pound gorilla in the room. 5. Strengthening U.S. alliances. Neoconservatives emphasize the importance of strong alliances and partnerships with like-minded nations to promote shared values and security interests. Remarks: war, and more war. More contracts for defense industrial complex. More deaths. More debt for U.S. citizens and so-called allies. 6. Combating terrorism. Neoconservatives focus on combating global terrorism and believe in a proactive approach to counter-terrorism efforts, including preemptive strikes and military action against terrorist groups. 7. Economic liberalization. Neoconservatives generally advocate for free market policies and economic liberalization, emphasizing the importance of entrepreneurship, innovation, and economic growth. Remarks: this is the money flow. 8. Energy security. Neoconservatives emphasize the need for U.S. energy independence and a diversified energy supply to reduce dependence on foreign oil and enhance national security. Remarks: Interesting how energy independence equals shutting down all kind of energy infrastructure in the US, even though the new reserves are being discovered every year. What is the end game? 9. Defending Israel. Neoconservatives are often strong supporters of Israel and prioritize maintaining a close relationship with the country, advocating for its security and survival. Remarks. Irving Kristol, known as the godfather of neoconservatism. William Kristol, Robert Kagan, Victoria Nuland, Richard Pearl, Paul Wolfowitz are the key neocons ideologies and functionaries. Of course, there are others like D. Cheney or John Bolton, but the above are at the helm of the ideology, or so it seems. All have very similar backgrounds, including ethnical and cultural. Jewish descent, likely Ashkenazi Eastern European roots. Could this be a factor in shaping of this ideology? Israel defense is certainly a very strong point for this group. 10. Cultural conservatism. While not a universal goal, some neoconservatives also promote traditional values and social conservatism, focusing on issues such as family values, religious freedom, and the preservation of cultural heritage. Remarks. While this point looks like the mildest one, it's important to note that it's difficult to combine a spread of Western values and democracy with all the current issues, such as sexual freedom, with all of its colors and transformations, and keeping traditional values and religious. The goals of neoconservatives are divisive and disruptive, with the potential to create more harm than good. Their aggressive pursuit of American hegemony and interventionist foreign policies have led to military interventions and regime changes that have destabilized nations and contributed to prolonged conflicts. It is a state of permanent war. This is the stability which they promised. The emphasis on spreading democracy, always through force, has resulted in unintended consequences and the erosion of trust in American intentions. Moreover, the neoconservative focus on prioritizing American interests above all else has at times undermined diplomatic efforts and hindered cooperation with international partners. These goals, while driven by a desire to protect national security and promote American values, have frequently generated negative outcomes, making them inherently distractive in the pursuit of global stability and peace. And now this war in Eastern Europe and the potential war in Asia pushes the world to the complete disaster and annihilation. Is there hope? We shall see. Pax in bello, peace in war, is the only peace which is within our reach.